Welcome in to another episode of Sands and Friends podcast. Yay! You guys are in for a treat today as I'm going to discuss a hot topic about things that keep naturally occurring, or are they? Are they a natural occurrence or are they man-made occurrence? We're going to cover today hurricanes and HAARP. Hurricanes and HAARP, the topic for today. If you're new here, thank you for coming in, tuning in. If you've been here before, you're in for a treat, something like we never did before. So come on in, grab a seat. This episode of Sands and Friends. Let's talk about it. Let's go. So talking about hurricanes, I'm preparing this video in the middle of a hurricane. So just in case the hurricane comes and destroys everything that you ever made and created, we're making this video as well. Okay, so this is a documentation before Hurricane Milton coming to Tampa for the second time landfall of a hurricane generating from Campeche Bay, making landfall in Florida. And this one is aiming right for us, okay? We got some mythological mysteries where we believe Indian burial grounds back in the old days, in the slavery days, the hurricanes don't come this way, but they got this one lined up with us right in the crosshairs. Bam! Center mass. I get the eye of the storm too. So we're going to see. This might force an evacuation on me and stuff like that. But hey, it's all good. We're going to see what Milton brings, you know. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, a lot of flooding maybe. But we're going to see what Milton brings. We're going to take it serious, you know. Most people evacuated. We're going to move more inland. But we're going to see what Milton does. Everybody in a path. So it don't really matter where you go within the city. Everybody in a path, okay? So first we're going to talk about hurricanes. We're going to talk about hurricanes, okay? Talking about hurricanes, how do they start? How does a hurricane form? How does it start? Let's break that down first, okay? Hurricane, first thing it does is the warm ocean air rises into a storm and the weather moves across the tropics, okay? Starts moving, okay? In the tropics. So the warm ocean air rises up, right? Heat rises, right? Like smoke, heat rises. That's what transforms things, is heat, right? Then the second thing that happens is low pressure develops from that. So when the heat leaves, now that's low down there. Now that's low. The heat leaving. So if the heat leaves, what happens? The cold take over, right? The cold form that pressure. The cold is forming that pressure. As the heat rises, the cold is forming that low pressure, right? Underneath the storm, causing the air to rush in. But it's also, that's like a funnel. So it's like a gravity bone. Like when you push the wall, push it down, they come out, you know? So until it's no more. And then it's like, then it bursts up. That causes the air to rush out. After that, the water going, once you do all of that, right? So that pressure forms and funnels up. And then the air rises and cools. So it'll rise up and cool and form clouds. Now, what do clouds do? They rain, right? They create thunderstorms and stuff, right? The warm ocean air rises. Then the low pressure forms beneath that like a funnel. And then the air funnels up, like after the gravity bone, water will come up, you know? And then that forms clouds and thunderstorms. Then the water condenses in the droplets in that cloud, like water, it rains. And then it releases heat that's needed to power the storm. So the thunderstorms, lightning, generate energy. And energy is heat. Energy is heat. The more something is cold, it has no energy. When we die, the body goes cold. The temperature is normally usually 98.6, but when you pass away, it's 0.0 cold. You feel me? Rigid, stiff. So no, the heat rises, right? So it releases heat with that power storm, with the thunderstorms, that powers the storm. And now the winds will start to increase. The winds will start to increase in that swirl and in that storm. And then the speed of the hurricane will be 74 miles an hour. And then it become a category 1 hurricane, okay? That's how hurricanes are formed. Now, with hurricanes, they can weaken when they move over cooler waters, but the Gulf is warm water. So it just keep shooting warm water up, bringing cold water down and rushing it in and making it bigger, right? That's what's happening. So high winds and low pressures can push the storm So the storm coming, they can send in other winds come in, they can push the storm a little bit off path and make it change directions and stuff. But it's slightly though, not so much big difference, okay? Now, that is how a hurricane works. That's how hurricanes work. We know that, right? We established that first, that this is how hurricanes work. Now we're going to go into HAARP. We're going to establish how they work, right? HAARP. HAARP is high frequency active auroral research program. I'll repeat that. High frequency active auroral research program. Okay? First, we're going to break down that whole meaning, right? That whole title, right? What is high frequency? High frequency, a frequency is the time interval between waves passing, while wavelength is the distance between any two waves. The distance in between any two waves, right? Now, as the frequency increases, wavelengths, the length of the wave, the faster it goes, the length of the wave shortens. It's a lot of little bursts, wavelengthing around. Now, when the frequency is slow, it's longer wavelengths, wavelengthing around. That's what it's telling you, right? So high frequency, right? Also, when the energy increases, also the wavelength is shortened, but the energy also increases because it's a lot of them bouncing and buzzing around. And the movement may increase, okay? So the movement start to increase, okay? Making it bigger, right? Sound like it can do that to her. We gonna keep going. Active. What does active mean? Active means it's ready to engage in physically energetic pursuits. We told you the hurricane need energy to go. The energy is formed in the clouds and in the thunderstorms. So we told you that, right? So active is ready to engage in physically energetic pursuits, working or operative, okay? Able to do that, okay? Next, we're gonna go over auroral, related to the aurora borealis, okay? Related to the aurora borealis. Said to be in the north, near the North Poles, the northern lights, right? The northern lights, right? You know what else travels to the north? Toward the northern lights? Hurricane. Hurricanes always rise northward, right? So it's like it got a pull magnetically to go toward the auroral epicenter, right? Up toward the North Pole. It's like they just got a pull to go there toward the north, near Iceland, Finland, Norway, Russia, Canada, and Alaska. But pay attention to those places because they might come back around. Just listen to me. Next, we're going to discuss what research program is. Research program is a professional network of scientists conducting basic research or a program that funds research opportunities. So you have the opportunity to study the ionosphere. And if you knew anything about the evaporation system, the last part of that system goes up into the clouds, which is the ionosphere up there. So they are researching up there, right? They're the only ones allowed to research there and come back with the conclusions of what happens there because they study that. They put money behind that to study that and come up with that. So basically this program is designed based on scientists' theory, basically. And since they're the only ones that can study it, they're the only ones that can disprove it. And so that got to be law. No! Or if you ask a further question about it, they don't know the answer. And they're like, nope, you get a statement like, nope, that does not happen. We do not influence the atmosphere at all. We just test it and research it. No, we're not. It's not possible. Yeah, okay. Lie. But hey, you didn't hear that from me. So basically, we got to accept their theories, but we can't question nothing about the science theories or that make you a conspiracy theorist. Sound like a big fat lie to me to hide something. All right. Well, there's their theory, right? So here goes mine, right? We know what a hurricane is. We know what HAARP is, right? Let's see how they tie together. Usually they say hurricanes start in the troposphere, which is the bottom. But yeah, as I just explained to you how a hurricane works, it goes up. The energy, the heat rises, right? Up, right? To the ionosphere. and creates that funnel. And the more thunderstorms that's up with that, when it rises up, that it can create when the clouds form, it's going to create more energy to make that thing bigger, right? So we know who got the ability to study up there, right? We know who got the capabilities and the money behind studying up there, right? So let's see. We ain't never had a hurricane start and over there in that area and just come straight toward. Usually hurricanes go toward the magnetic center. So what can possibly drive this thing due east, okay? When they usually go due north or northwest north. Like, something strange, right? So that's what I'm concluding, right? So knowing that that happens in the troposphere, they say that they only study the ionosphere, so they have no control over what happens here. That's a lie. So when I researched the ionosphere and tried to see what was the correlation here, I found out something new about something called space hurricanes. What is a space hurricane? Where do they happen at? Are they happening at the same time up above as one is happening down here to us? Don't know. I have to research some more on that myself. But that's what I came to understand what that meant. But I also know that it's a lie because I know that that high heat and pressure is forming up and going up, and that is the tropospheric level, the ionospheric level where that activity is happening. So basically hurricanes touch both and do both. So you can't have one without the other. So telling us that that doesn't correlate, that don't make sense. And if you eat that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you and some waterfront property in Idaho. Come on, get it right now before it go fast. Talking about my theory, right? Knowing how hurricanes are formed and knowing what HAARP is responsible for, it's easy to see a direct correlation between the two, like I just explained. Many have suspected that HAARP plays a major role in the natural disasters, making them more man-made than naturally made than a natural occurrence. HAARP deals with high frequency, right? Deals with high frequency, but it transmits at a low frequency. It transmits at a frequency between 2.5 and 10 megahertz. So it transmits at a low frequency. So who wants to keep you at a low frequency? Because a high frequency heals. Disease can't exist in a high frequency. All those things can exist at a high frequency. So that thing transmitting at a low frequency. And for ELF and VLF, very low frequencies and extremely low frequencies, what is going on? We make the buzz at a high vibration that forms at least at 432 hertz. So kicking out at that level, something wrong. It deals with the ionosphere, which is the uppermost level of the atmosphere. Like I told you, they use the most powerful ionospheric heater in the world. This thing is powered by 3,600 horsepower diesel engines. They crank out 3.6 megawatts at multiple frequencies and beams. Okay, so this thing shooting. They use an antenna that uses a high frequency to transmit radio waves and direct energy into the ionosphere and space. So that's how the space hurricanes started and stuff up there. Okay, now knowing that hurricanes need a lot of heat and thermal energy to grow bigger, my theory concludes that HAARP sends the signal into the upper atmosphere to direct heat, and a hurricane will follow until it reaches land. There are free electrons and ions in the ionosphere that radio waves can interact with. HAARP radio waves heat the electrons and ions to create small disturbances, perturbations, into similar natural occurrences in nature. So basically they can simulate on a small level what can happen in nature, and that's what they supposedly test, right? That's what they supposedly invest the money in testing, so they can know when a big thing comes and how this and that, right? They can affect that and create a small one, but they saying they can't create a big one. So hold on now. They create small ones that's similar to natural occurrences in nature, but they're not. So you telling me that if they can recreate these small ones, that they don't have no ability, 0% chance of creating or influencing when a big one happens? Think about it, man. Think about it. Do your own research and research on them mega storms. Now, the last and final piece, most people know about the HAARP station, the HAARP facility that's in Alaska. I'm going to tell you that it's 12 more.
No way!
It's 12 more laying on the 188 ley line energy grid. Look that up. That's just some food for thought. You don't trust what I'm saying? Go look that up. 188 ley line energy. And it might have something to do with God. So look that up and see what that's going on talking about. But the 13 facilities are, everybody know the one in Alaska. They most familiar with that one. But they got one in Long Island. They got one in Area 51. Oh, it's aliens there. They want to keep you out. Yeah, you got to keep you out, right? They got to keep you out. Area 51. And you got Puerto Rico got one. You got Brazil got one. You got Peru got one. UK got one. Norway has one. China, Russia, Japan, India, and finally Australia. So basically they're on like every continent. So that's what I'm gonna call HAARP. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just gonna say Hey, that concludes, man. That's a head scratcher for the day. That's something to talk about. Appreciate y'all listening to me rant. Appreciate y'all listening to me talk. If y'all liked it, go ahead and share it to a friend. If you loved it, go ahead and subscribe. Come on in. Hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in to another episode of Sands and Friends Podcast. Like I say, you come in, you might get Sands, you might get friends, you might get Sands and Friends. Appreciate y'all tuning in to me today. Thank you. Have a blessed one. Hey, let's see. Hopefully this hurricane spare us, Be good to us, Milton.